The New York Jets are now on the board.
Okay, Jet fans, Darrell Revis.
Being in New York has been one of the greatest blessings.
Zach's Fifth Avenue ran that one right now.
The New York Jets select.
Welcome to another episode of NFL Draft Preview. We got a juicy episode on deck. We're talking defensive line, Dane, and let's just start with potentially the number one overall selection in Aiden Hutchinson. What makes him the potential number one overall pick, and how do you think he would fare in other drafts in other years?
Hutchinson, might not have been a top 10 pick last year. It's a very realistic scenario where, he goes 11, 12, somewhere in that range. But he's still a really good player. And I think you feel good about his floor, about what he's going to give you. He gives, he's the type of guy that the mentality that he brings is almost as important as the physical skills. And he has the physical skills. I think he gets kind of, earmarked as that, really try hard competitor, over eager, guy that's just plays beyond his means, that type of guy. He's going to be a double-digit sack guy in the NFL, and that's why he is the favorite to be the number one overall pick. And if he doesn't go 1, he's probably going to go 2 or 3. I'm not sure the Jets at 4 will have a shot at him.
So let's assume that Aiden Hutchinson is off the board by the time the Jets select at number 4. Do you think that guys like Kvon Thibodeaux, Travon Walker, all those guys are available for the Jets taking, or you think that somebody could potentially be selected 2 or 3 overall?
Yeah, I definitely think that, like Travon Walker, if he goes top 3, that shouldn't surprise anybody. There's just not many guys that have his ability, his length, his athleticism, his size, his power, and people will point to the lack of pass rush production. And they just have to understand the context of what he was asked to do in that Georgia defense. We've talked about it before. I think you're looking at Travon Walker and what he could be 2-3 years from now and thinking, all right, yeah, we'll bet on that and feel good about the guy that we're bringing to our program.
On that note, let's move on to Kvon Thibodeaux, because it feels like Kvon Thibodeaux is one of those guys that's also in that top 5 projection. He's also been projected to be potentially top 12 or so. So where do you stand on Kvon Thibodeaux as a prospect?
Yeah, and there's plenty to like as a player. You're getting a guy that's 6'4", 245, so maybe not quite the size that you expected. A little lighter than you want. Decent length, over 33-inch arms, but not commanding length. But I think what helps with him, he uses that forward lean so he can get into blockers, drive them backwards. He has a lot of power to what he does, and strength in his hands, powerful jab steps. There's different ways that he can win, and he's not the most fluid guy. That's not how he gets after the quarterback. But you do see him rush with upfield urgency.
Of the 4 guys, let's say the 3 guys, Hutchinson's off the board. You got Walker, you got Thibodeaux, you got Jalen Johnson. The Jets are at 4 overall. Which one of these players makes the most sense for the team based on talent and, more importantly, based on scheme fit?
I'm going Travon Walker. I'm betting on those traits every day. But you could easily make a case for the other 2 guys as well. And Jalen Johnson, he was the top defensive player going into the Senior Bowl. And after what he did in Mobile, he kind of put any doubt to rest there with the way he played at the Senior Bowl practices. A very good run defender, really good pass rusher. Maybe not elite in any one of those areas, but he's just good across the board. And especially if Walker's off the board, Jalen Johnson should at least be in that conversation if they want to go pass rusher number 4.
Jets also had Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State, Boye Mafe out of Minnesota on their team during Senior Bowl week. You think both of those guys also could be viable options for the Jets at either 35 or 38, or some of those guys might creep up into the back half of round 1?
Yeah, I was going to say, they definitely would be if they're there in the 30s. I think both could easily go in the first round. That makes sense. But if one were to slip through the cracks and be there in the early second, I think the Jets would be all over that, especially if they don't go pass rusher, obviously, at 4 or 10. Ebiketie, a Temple transfer, who is a really long player. He's got over 34-inch arms. It doesn't look like it. He's 6'2.5", 250. But his length really stands out. Arnold Ebiketie, I think I just made a case why he won't be there in the 30s. But why, if he is, the Jets should be all over.
All right. That's a great way to end this episode of NFL Draft Preview. Dane, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Ethan.